Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system.
Hi, Foffit. You've reached Mel from Bella, the podcast that feels like a voice note from your best friend. Welcome to this week's episode of the podcast. If you're a new listener, welcome to the inner group chat. Not many people know about us apart from me and you, and so I'm so excited that you're here. And if you are a returning listener, welcome back. We have so much to catch up on. The reason we've had yet another change of background is mainly because I left recording the podcast too late and now the sun is just blinding me every single time I try and record. And so we've moved to the sofa, which I don't think it's as nice as the other background, but at least we're recording the podcast. So I'm trying to see the winds. I'm feeling slightly stressed, guys. I've over-agreed to too many things and I have exactly 15 minutes to record the podcast before I have to set off for my 10K to then get back to be able to see my sister on time. And I think I'm probably overdoing it in terms of how much I'm trying to fit in. But I think I can also manage it at the same time, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Like, will I actually be able to manage it all? I don't know. But I feel like I can. And so we're going to see how this day pans out. But anyway, before we go into a whole life update about how my week's been, this week we are going to be talking about friendships. How friendships make you feel, friendships in the sense of losing them, how friendships evolve as you grow up, and how kind of finding friends in your 20s is a bit hard because it's been something I've been thinking about a lot over the last week, about how friendships evolve as we evolve and how not everyone who you meet at certain parts of your life are going to be in your entire life. And that is almost hard to grapple with because when you meet people and you make friends with them, you expect that you're going to be that close forever. You know, you think you're going to be that person's person, and it's not saying that you weren't for a time, but it's unlikely that you will be that same person forever because you change and they change. And I don't think it's something we often talk about. Like, I think it's something we think about and we feel, but we don't want to say out loud because it can be uncomfortable to admit that, you know, I have less friends now than I did 5 years ago, 10 years ago, for example. And so it's something that I wanted to bring up in this podcast episode so that we could actually chat about it and see how we're feeling about it. But before we get into this week's topic or this week's update, let's have a little life update because this week has been good. This week I felt really happy and I don't know what the change has been. I think I was right. I just needed to settle into my new routine. I needed to work out what was going to make me feel better and how it was going to make me feel better. And as soon as I worked that out, as soon as I realised what was actually going to make me feel better was being kinder to myself, making space and time to do the things that I wanted to do, I started to feel a lot better. I started to feel a lot more kind of present and connected to the things that I was doing. And I think that was I felt proud of myself for that this week, for actually making time to be nice to myself, because it's my big overarching goal of this year is to be nicer to myself, to be kinder to myself, because I've had a breakthrough, okay? And I know we discussed it in last week's podcast episode, but I've had another one, okay? You are only, right, and I don't mean this in, like, I don't know if this is the right way to phrase it. I haven't worked that out yet. I don't know if this is the most correct phrasing, but you're only as strong as your weakest link, okay? And my weakest link right now, so that means the way I'm interpreting that is no matter how much reading I do, how much journaling I do, no matter how many times I go to the gym or how strong I am or how many great different foods I eat or how much water I drink, none of it matters. Well, I know it does matter, but if I'm not being nice to myself, all of those things can only take me so far because this one thing that's a lot lower than everything else will be pulling me down. And I think what I've been doing is ignoring the one thing I should probably focus on and really just pushing forward with everything else that's already pretty okay, because I felt like it could kind of, overrule that negative mindset. But the truth is like when you're only as strong as your weakest link right now, the way I'm talking to myself and see myself, that's my weakest link, which means it doesn't really matter what else I do with everything else, because when that is such a fundamental thing that is not working, all of the other things, I don't want to say it's pointless because it's not pointless. They're still doing good. You are still doing good. Like, I don't mean you, I mean me, but like, I'm still doing good with all of those things. It's not that they are inherently bad things. It's more that they aren't going to get like that extra threshold of growing and evolving into the person I want to be isn't going to happen unless I start being actually nice to myself. Like, that's the thing that's really holding me back. It's not how many vegetables I eat and how much I, move my body and how much sleep I get. It's not those things anymore because I've got them to a good standard. It's really how I talk to myself. And this week, get this, I've been habit stacking. If you don't already know what habit stacking is, read Atomic Habits. It's really good. I think you can get it for free on Prime at the moment. And it's also in the works for like £7 or £5. Basically, it's really reduced. And so if you read that book, they say the way to start a new habit is putting it into a habit that you already do. And the way I started being nice to myself is every time I brush my teeth, I think things that I'm proud of myself for or achievements that I have. And I recite to myself that evidence list, and reciting that evidence list forces me to actually think, oh, I have done good things. Things are going okay, like things are going well, and allows me to be proud of myself for that. And so that's been a big kind of first step in working out kind of what my next move would be and how I'd make that next move into making me feel better. And that's been a big next step in prioritizing, kind of making me feel happier. And I did this meditation about loving yourself, right? Don't want to expose myself, but I did cry. Don't know why I cried. I think I just felt emotional because it wasn't sad tears, but did it. And this week I have felt happier. I've laughed in the morning when I've woken up at 6 a.m. I've never laughed at 6 a.m. before. That's normally I'm like, oh, this is a bit early for me. I'm not my boyfriend would disagree because I am very chatty in the morning, but I don't class myself as too much of a chatterbox in the morning. But this week I have been. I've been really happy and I've laughed a lot. And I had like quite a big thing at work and I didn't spend the entire evening beforehand feeling really nervous. Like I could logically reason to myself, it's going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. This is going to be okay. And like I listened to it and it felt good. And these all feel happy new things that old me, she wouldn't have had. She wouldn't have been able to do that. And so that feels like growth. And I also feel, along with the happiness, a lot calmer. And I think it's been really facing the things that I'm not very good at or I'm not very kind to myself about and actually working on them rather than just ignoring them, rather than thinking, oh, it's too big to handle, it's too much. Thinking, no, I can be nicer to myself and I'm going to put effort into that. I'm going to try harder. I am going to try harder at that. Seeing the way I talk to myself as something of value and important has been really important. And so I think that's made this week a good week. And it makes me happy that like being nicer to myself is a goal of mine because it's already having an impact, you know? Like it's already having an impact on the way I am and how I feel. Maybe it's also just a good week mentally. Like I don't want to be like, this is me forever because I'm always going to be happy now. I know I'm going to have moments, but I do feel generally happier right now. And I think it's a lot to do with being nicer to myself and feeling that calm. I'll check back in next week, but we will see. Also, if you're in Manchester, in January they have loads of food deals. And I went to Tangerine for the first time, like yesterday. So good. I got a burger reduced from like £14 to £8, which £8 just for a burger always feels expensive, but it was delicious. I had the Oxo burnt butter burger as a great pre-dinner snack. It was really nice. And they had pizzas on for £3.40. And they are small pizzas, like little ones. But great for like lunch, or if you and your friends go and you want to get a few things, like they have loads of offers on. And so if you're in Manchester, make sure you're checking the January deals because you don't want to miss out on it. And I missed out on it for so many years because I had no idea they were actually real. They're real, guys, and you could be missing out too. Other things that I've done this week have been go to a spin class, and I'm about to go on a 10k run. I didn't know if I had time for the 10k run as mentioned previously, but I've now decided I'm just going to run to meet my sister. And then then I gain half an hour of not having to come back and get ready. And I think this does feel like a good plan. Whether or not I regret this plan in the future, I don't know. But currently this feels like a good plan. And so this week has been a good week. I've managed to stick with my goals and my habits. I've meditated, I've journaled, I've read my book, Crescent City. I'm nearly halfway through it, and I have thought that she's going to bring a new one out in January. And what are we now? January the 16th. She hasn't brought a new one out yet, has she? Apparently it's 2026, just general. I need specifics of when that next book is coming out because I just don't know what I'm going to read afterwards. And I don't know if I want to... I think I might need a break before I read... what is it? It's like Thought. No, it's not ACOTAR. It's the other one. I can't remember the other one. Do you know the other one I'm on about? There's like 3, she's done 3 big series. Throne of Glass is what I want to call it. I don't think I can jump straight into that. I think I need to leave the world to then go back to the world because otherwise I'm going to find it a little bit confusing. And also, I think you can get a bit too much of one person's writing style, especially because of how big the books of hers are. I think they're like 700 pages, and I've read 3. That's 2,100 pages of one person's writing in one go. So we're going to have a little break, a little moment. The highs of this week have been making time to read, meditating, and finding another great recipe. So you make beef meatballs from the mince. You mix it with like herbs, onion, an egg, and breadcrumbs. Make your own meatballs. Then make tzatziki, super easy. Greek yogurt, grated cucumber that you dab dry with paper towels. Get the water out, salt, lemon juice, mint. That's it. Then you cook rice and you just have it together with a Greek salad. The Greek salad has tomatoes, cucumber, peppers, feta. Don't hold back on the feta. Chop it into really small cubes though, and it's really good. Onion, and then Italian, like oregano, like some type of herb over the top. I use oregano preferably, but not loads because I overherbed it one time and it wasn't very nice. And that has been a great dinner and would recommend that. Lows of the week have been, honestly, loads of the week is I booked myself onto a gym class and I totally forgot about it and I missed it and I felt really bad. And I used one of my strikes. So that's a low of the week. I just totally forgot that I booked it for 6:40 in the morning. I mean, who was I kidding? Why did I book that? Sometimes these Sunday resets where I'm like setting my goals for the week and planning my week out, I'm way too ambitious and we need to work on that. So on to the content part of this week's podcast episode. And this week we are discussing friendships. Because I think as a kid, we are all kind of taught that like friendships are going to last forever, and we create those BFF bracelets and they have the interlocking hearts and you think, this is it. I found my person and it's never going to change, and that is so perfect and brilliant and feels like a relief because you've got that person and that's so great. And then, you know, things happen and you look back and you realize that friendship kind of faded away and you don't have it anymore. And that is hard to deal with because we think it's going to last forever. We think it's going to be something that we really have for much longer of our lives, and that is uncomfortable because it's almost like when you found your people, you think you've found them and that's it. You don't need to look anymore. You've sorted it. You've done such a good job. When the reality is that you're not. Your friends are going to evolve as you evolve, and the people you surround yourself are going to change as you change. And, you know, your habits and your daily routine is going to change, which means the people you see regularly is going to change, which is going to impact your friendships as a knock-on. And I think this whole spiral about friendships kind of started because I saw someone on social media do like an engagement. It's nothing on their post. It was a lovely post. They did an engagement announcement and it was like videoing all of the people's reactions of people they'd call if they got engaged. And I just started thinking, like, if I got engaged, who'd I call? And I'm sure there's a lot more people that I would call than I actually thought of in the moment of when I was just being sad and silly. But I was a bit like, not that many. I would not have that many people to call. I really wouldn't have that many people to call. And it sent me in a bit of a spiral. So much so that I'm sat at the pulley down one at the gym. I'm sat there and I'm literally doing like number 1 person I'd call and writing out their name, 2 person that I'd call and writing it. And I'm writing a list of the people that I would call. And then I went on to be like, okay, well, let's write a list of my friends. Like, how many friends do I actually have? And I wrote out and I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing? And then I listened to a podcast by Mel Robbins, and she was talking about friendships. It was like the 9 habits that'll change your life. Basically, it was a roundup, most famous, most viral moments on the podcast. And the things that were really sticking out and there was a section on it about friendships. And in the section about friendships, the doctor said, your friendships will kind of reset every 7 years. Friendships have a time span of around 7 years. Every 7 years, you will go through a shedding and you will meet new people and your entire social circle will change. And I think it's really easy to see this in other people. It can be hard to see it in yourself because you can be like, well, no, that person's here and that person's still there. But then, you know, you look at your parents and you think about the friends that they had when we were growing up. You know, when they were dropping us off at school, they had a whole social circle made out of that group. And then they saw each other every single day for like 7 years and then never again because we changed schools. We all moved schools. We went to secondary school. And the same again, secondary school, a whole different group of network of people that you know. And then you don't know them anymore. They drift away. So when a chapter ends and people leave your life, I think it is also, as sad as it is to lose someone, it can be exciting to also gain someone. It kind of feels like a changing of the guard, you know, where things evolve as your friends evolve, as you evolve. And I also think there's a lot to be said about you not wanting to surround yourself with the same people as when you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago. That kind of makes sense. You've grown a lot as a person. I've grown a lot as a person, which means the friendships that we've had and the people that we've surrounded ourselves with aren't always going to want to be the exact same people that we surround ourselves with now. We're going to want to grow and change, and as we grow and change, because I'm a totally different person to when I was 20, those people are going to grow and change too. And they're going to want different things, and they're going to want to surround themselves with different people, and they're going to have different aspirations for their life. And I think I kind of think it's beautiful to think that even though if a friend leaves your life, even if you're not as close as some people anymore, it doesn't mean that that chapter where you were close doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't mean that that chapter's irrelevant. It doesn't mean that that chapter never happened. It doesn't mean that chapter didn't have an impact. Just because right now you guys aren't your everything to each other doesn't mean that you weren't for a moment and you didn't learn everything in that moment that you could. Because I do think, although we are constantly learning from everyone, sometimes you will have learned all your lessons from a person and it's time to move on. And allowing yourself to move on, giving yourself permission to leave something that's not right for you, is scary. Because it's like second guessing, like, am I making the right decision? But you know when you've outgrown a friendship. And I think we need to normalize the conversation around having different levels of friendship and different amounts of friendship, and feeling insecure about your friends and friendships, not feeling insecure about your friends, but feeling insecure that you don't have enough friends purely because of social media. Because I think social media has made us think a lot that there's a certain type of like perfect friendship group, and the people with like more friends, that means that you're happier. And I know we all know that, you know, it's better to have a few really close friends and the numbers don't matter, and it doesn't matter. But if you are feeling lonely, seeing people who seem to have loads and loads of friends, that can make you feel a bit insecure. And it's all right to say that. It's all right to say that these things might make us feel insecure or doubt ourselves or just feel a little bit isolated. But what I think is important is also to recognize that I wasn't feeling those things about my friends until I saw someone else post a video showing how many friends that they had. If I'd have lived in my own little world and I'd never been on social media, I would never have thought. And I think these are the moments where we really have to reflect on social media and think about how it's impacting us, how it's impacting our perception of ourselves, and how we have to make sure we kind of break our way out of it. Because I know we've been talking a lot about comparison and making sure that we're not just comparing ourselves to the people around us. But I do think it's important. You know, I even found myself doing it then of social media's allowed us access to every single person, which means whatever we have, we don't feel like it's enough. But that's not the case. If you're happy in your friendships and you feel content in your friendships and your friendships provide you what you need, then, you know, why are we comparing it to other people? And I think that's where it is important that we look at social media. We think about how the knock-on impact of that is on us reflecting on our own lives. And when we reflect on our own lives, we really question, is that true? Is that a true thought that I actually feel? Do I actually feel like I don't have enough friends? Or do I feel like I don't have as many friends as you? Because that's different. That's a whole different kettle of fish. Because that's comparison, and that's where it kind of really lies. And so I kind of wanted to share that it's okay that your friendships are going to change, because they are going to change. You're going to change. Who you want to surround yourself with is going to change. And as your goals change, so will the people you surround yourself with, because you'll realize some people don't want that anymore. And it's not what they want is bad, but it's just that it's not what you want anymore. And the people you surround yourself with do matter. You know, you are a product of the people you surround yourself with and the conversations that you have. And so surrounding yourself with people that are going to support you to get to where you want to get to is important. And so from this podcast episode, I hope you realize that like friendship looks different for every single person, and you are going to win and you are going to gain friendships, and you're going to lose friendships, and who you have in your social circle is going to evolve. And it can feel uncomfortable because we've been taught that it's going to be the stable thing forever, but it shouldn't feel uncomfortable because it's so logical. As you change and as I change, we are going to change the people that we surround ourselves with. And it doesn't always mean that something's gone wrong. It doesn't mean you've had a big fallout. It doesn't mean that anyone is in the wrong. It just means that you guys aren't right for each other anymore, that this chapter's not meant for you, but it doesn't take the meaning away from the chapter that you had together. And I think that's where we can find value and comfort and kind of confidence that it's going to be okay. So on to the question part of this week's podcast episode. And the first question is, what is something that you've never admitted out loud? And it's kind of tricky when you are a massive chatterbox like I am. Like, I feel like I've probably said every single thought that's ever come out of my mouth. But probably something I've never admitted out loud is I struggle a lot. No, I have admitted this out loud. I struggle a lot with not thinking that I'm good enough, and I'm kind of my own harshest critic and feel like I should be able to do so much more than I currently am doing. But I am grappling with this to realise that I am doing good enough and I am proud of myself, and so I think that's a positive journey. But I need to go, guys, because I'm about to go meet my sister to go pick up my sourdough starter from her, because I got it as a Christmas present, right? And I haven't been able to do it, and I left it at home, and now she's coming through Manchester, and so I'm going to meet her off the train, but I need to fit in my run beforehand, and so it's all going to have to work like clockwork, and I kind of don't know how it's going to go. But anyway, thank you for listening to this week's episode of the podcast. If you don't follow me already, make sure you follow me on Instagram and on TikTok at Mel from Bella, and I can't wait to catch up with you next week. I hope you have a brilliant week, and I'll see you soon. I love you. Bye. Mwah.